Welcome to the Patryk Real Estate Show, where we explore the fascinating world of real estate investing with your host, Patryk Switek. Patryk is a dynamic young entrepreneur and an accomplished real estate investor who's passionate about helping others achieve financial freedom. Each week, we sit down with some of the most inspiring individuals in the real estate industry and delve into their personal journeys, lessons learned, and secrets to their success. Let's dive into this week's episode.
Welcome, Michael Elefante, to the Patryk Real Estate Show. For the people that don't know Michael has 8 short-term rentals under his own portfolio, and then he manages around 300. And that's an impressive portfolio that has, it's grown pretty quickly over the last, how long was that, Michael?
We started investing ourselves back in 2019 and slowly scaled, focused on more and more on larger properties for bigger cash flow numbers, and then branched into managing properties for people really in 2022 was when Home Team Vacation Rentals was formalized. That has scaled very quickly. We manage over 300. About half of that came through, or a third of that came through an acquisition. The rest just organic growth. So it's been a pretty wild several years, but yeah, man, we love short-term rentals.
That's awesome. And it's kind of crazy because I've been scaling my management company through acquisitions as well. And I think that might be something really interesting we can talk about. I'm on my second one right now. I bought my second one. I'm in escrow on my third. But yeah, let's chat it up. But before we get into all of that, I want to know kind of how you got into short-term rentals in general, man. Like, how did you fall, ears on short-term rentals versus anything else in the space?
Yeah, for sure. Well, honestly, like a lot of people get started into real estate. For me, it was more so out of necessity. Like I didn't want to work the job I was working or a similar job in the industry. I was in tech sales, no passion for it, and working 40 plus hours a week, traveling some, just like it got caught up to me a lot quicker than I think a lot of people. I was probably like 26, 27 years old when I started just to dive into podcasts, books, YouTube. Like how do I create some other type of income for myself where I'm not totally dependent on my time spent, right? And a lot of those roads lead to real estate and more passive forms of income where you can build your wealth, make cash flow, all that good stuff. So started to just learn about the different aspects or the different real estate strategies, and then learned about short-term rentals. I was actually staying in an Airbnb in Nashville, Tennessee. At the time I was living in Austin. My wife and I were thinking about moving there to Nashville, and we stayed there, and I started to crunch numbers on like what they were charging. It was a very modest apartment, and about how much I think it would cost to either rent or buy this place and what their expenses would be. And I was like, there's no way these numbers, like, are these really this good, So a year goes by and I just learned to analyze properties, just analyzed a ton on my own, just more for practice, and finally sacked up enough courage to get the first one. And it happened to be in Nashville just because it was, great tourist town, growing city, and we lived there. So it just made things a little bit easier. And once like the third month hit and busy season hit, and we were set to cash for like $7,000, like net, I was like, this is crazy. I was all in. So from that point forward, sold our retirement accounts, 401k, IRAs, got the second unit, scaled as fast as we could, partnered on a deal. Fast forward to today, have 8 properties. But the cool story that I always love to tell people is we had a goal of hitting financial freedom, basically having enough passive income or cash flow from our rentals to pay for our living expenses within 10 years. That was our goal. 10 years would be awesome. We don't have to wait till 65. We'll get it done by like 35, 37 years old. And it's just amazing what can happen when you just start, because we started, got that first property, the light bulb moment hit, and we actually technically hit financial freedom on our 11th month.
There you
crazy.
Go. That is
which is why people like me and you love short-term rentals, right, Patryk? Mm-hmm. You can attest to this. It honestly only takes 1 to 3 quality short-term rentals to replace most people's 9-to-5 income. And I stand by that number. It's crazy. So for me, it was like, I don't want to scale to 50 units to cash flow $10,000 when I could scale to 3.
You know what's crazy? You're not the only person to say the same thing with, I'll retire maybe in like 5 years once I have a decent amount of portfolio. And it's funny, I get students, I'm sure you do too, that will talk about, in 10 years, I want to do this. It's like, you're thinking in your head, like, you could do this in a year if you really want to. But you don't want to overpromise, underdeliver. But people get quite surprised how fast they can scale with short-term rentals.
Yeah, 100% agree. It's crazy.
Yeah. So you did So you did get to how many rentals did you have before you reached that number? Was that two or three, you
It was
said?
three. It was
Three?
three. It would have been just two, but
Mm.
keep in mind we launched our first one at the end of 2019, and then we all know what happened in spring of 2020. So we had, we were under contract for our second one in Nashville when the first case of COVID came to the U.S., and we had like 40 grand of cancellations in 2 weeks on our one property. So that kind of sucked, but I thought it was just like, hey, this will last like a month. So we were all in, closed on that second one. And then what we did for the third is we saw all the travel pivot. It was after the 2 week like shutdown, lockdowns, whatever. It pivoted to the rural markets. So we looked at the Smokies, Smoky Mountains, the most visited national park in the country, and honed in on Gatlinburg. And I thought this is funny, man. You'll laugh at this. I thought I was way overpaying for a 4-bedroom cabin for
I don't even want to know the
550K.
price. Because I've
550.
invested in Smokies, so I don't want to know the price.
Yeah, well, it's crazy because like a year and a half, 2 years later, and we did a little bit of work to it, but not a ton. It appraised over 900 grand. And we did a cash out refi, pulled out like 2 or 3x. Yeah, about 2x what we
What
put
did you
in.
buy?
It's just, what did we buy?
Yeah, what was the purchase price?
It was 550
For four
for a
bedroom?
4-bedroom. Yeah.
Damn.
So, it's crazy. And you can't get that for under 900 or $1 million now, but I don't want to tell myself in 10 years, man, I wish I bought that at 900 or $1 million. So you just have to like do due diligence, make smart investments. But anyways, we saw the travel pivot. And so even though we didn't have a ton of cash flow in Nashville, just with all the shutdowns, it started to ramp back up in early 21. But man, Gatlinburg was hitting on full cylinder right there. So yeah, that 11th month, I think we cashed flowed like 14 grand, and most of it was just from the one Gatlinburg property. And then the next month it was like 20 grand, and most of it was from the Gatlinburg property. So
COVID.
I tell you, 1 to 3 good ones can really do it for most people. It's, as you know, Patrick, it's crazy.
Oh, I know. Now let's talk about those numbers, because I think a lot of people will, like going back to that and play a little devil's advocate. A lot of people mention that 2 or 3 is not possible in these days. That short-term rentals are diminishing returns now. It's saturated. I think that's the big word that people use. How do you combat that argument?
The biggest thing you can do is you have to compete on value. Like short-term rentals is hospitality. It's a business. It's not just a passive real estate investment. If you don't compete on value and sell on a unique experience, you will have diminishing returns because other people around you are going to be setting up or revamping properties that are better than yours. So, it's like any business. Like you're selling a widget, you're selling an iPhone. Like if you're competing on price, it's cell phones rather. It's a race to the bottom. But people love their iPhone. They don't really care what it costs. They'll pay a premium for it, right? Because they provide a better product, better service, better feel, better support, all that good stuff. So same thing with short-term rentals. You have to figure out what else people provide in that market that allows them to perform at the top. And then my take on it is, what is my 1 to 2 things that I can add that very few, if maybe nobody has in that market? And if you pair those 2 things together, you'll absolutely get booked and you will not experience diminishing returns, at least not at the level that other people will when they kind of start to fall into that more average property.
Mm-hmm. And I kind of say this, the STRs of the world, the Coles of the world, the middle ground where you're not competing on price or you're not competing on value, you're in dead man zone. And so you got to pick one or the other. And what's interesting is I think we both can agree on this, is design is one of the most important elements of all that. I know that you had a property that you just recently, maybe not that recently, but have redesigned or designed, and it does way better than everything else in your area of Nashville.
Yep.
Can we talk?
We redesigned it. That was our first. Yeah, that was our first ever
go.
property we bought, and it had one unique factor. It had a custom mural that was like butterfly wings. A lot of people have murals or lighted signs, stuff like that. But that was the only reason we rented so well for so many years. But as time went on, especially when you have people like me posting like, here's how much money we're making on Airbnb, Vrbo, whatever, go invest in these markets. It gets more competitive, and
We're
people
the
are setting up
problem,
some.
Michael. This is what
I
you
know.
gotta just stop talking about it. You guys gotta tell everyone that it sucks and it's saturated.
If we don't talk about it, other people will. So I might as well talk about it, right?
I know, right? No, I'll joke.
Yeah. So, anyways, basically what we're looking at is, hey, what are these other properties that are now doing better than us? What are they offering? What kind of theme? And you hear the saying, the riches are in the niches, and that it does hold true in a lot of cases, especially short-term rentals. And it's not so much you have to necessarily pick like a hyper niche and stay within that lane, but you have to understand who you're catering towards, who's going to be finding your place online and booking it. If you're hoping bachelorette parties are going to book your property, but you also want to cater to guys and families in Nashville, you're going to get very average rates, because you're not going to get as high rates for the bachelorette parties who are providing the all pinks and the crazy amenities, and you're not going to be getting the premium rates for families who are providing a pool and a playground and stuff. So, you can't do everything. So what we did is we went all out and invested very heavily into the redesign. We added a few amenities, like converted the garage to more of a game room, added a fire pit, karaoke, all pink, and really sold. Design sells, guys, I'm telling you, because short-term rentals, people are finding you online, and it's like social media. It's like they have so many different options, right? Same thing like TikTok. You're scrolling through thousands of videos. You have 2 seconds to really catch someone's attention and earn their attention enough to click on your listing. Once they click on your listing, they have an opportunity to book. But if you never get seen or clicked on, you have 0% chance. So I'll tell you the data on this, which is pretty wild. So we had blocked off our calendar from that last week in November through like the second or third week of December for the redesign. We relaunched, and at that time we had 0 bookings in 2024. And within the first 3 weeks, we had over 50 grand booked for 2024 at rates as high as 50% higher than our previous highest daily rate ever.
Wow.
So we're getting booked as high as $1,500 a night now. So our average stay, or the revenue on it has increased dramatically, and our booking lead time has lengthened. And we were experiencing that shrinking, actually, which is not good if you're catering to bachelorette parties, because most of them are booking 3 to 6 months out. So we're getting booked out as far as November, and here we are in January. So, I would recommend, if you have a property and it's struggling, before going out and trying to buy another property, you might be better off reinvesting those dollars into that property, because you might get a higher ROI doing that on something that you already own.
Yeah. So, when do you really start seeing those diminishing returns, and when do you start seeing, okay, maybe I should start investing in that property? What is that point in time that you decided doing that?
Probably the second half of 2023. I saw our booking lead time shrink a bit, and it became very challenging to hit some of the weekend rates we were used to seeing in Nashville, even pre-COVID levels, where we were still getting booked between $700 and $900 a night on the weekends, maybe $1,000 a night here and there. It started to get to the point where we were dropping our rates to like $400 to $650, somewhere in there. So that's like a 50% decrease in our premium night rates. So once I saw that and the booking lead time shrink, probably like by 5 or 10 days from the prior 6 months or prior year, I kind of just saw the writing on the wall that, hey, if we don't do something with all the extra competition, we may struggle a little bit. We're still cash flow positive, but not at the level that we will be now.
That's great. And how often do you think that, like, once you invest in, let's say, a property, considering the amount of times you have to keep reinvesting in the property, does it still make sense financially to own that asset long term if you have to keep, keeping up with the Jones per se, right? Because there's always going to be somebody that's going to come in and want to do the same thing you're doing, because they're like, wow, they're making this money, I'm just going to copy them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think designing it right from the day one or day zero is the most critical thing you can do, because you have to think about it. Like, yeah, if I could design it on my own, furnish it on my own, unless you have like a really good knack for it, you're not going to be able to do what someone like Summerlin Designs can do, where professional designers day in, day out, they're doing all the market research to figuring out like what's going to get you the highest daily rate and have the most sustainable property long term, regardless of what competition does. So day zero is important, because if you don't do it right, and then a year goes by, like you said, now I'm going to, instead of just spending like 30 grand on furnishing and design when I should have spent like 70 maybe on like the way higher end, although that's a difference, what if you redesign it later and then spend 70? Now you're 100 grand into it within the first year and a half, because you're like, crap. Not only that, there's an opportunity cost, because how much revenue did you walk right past because you didn't have the design right out of the gate? And it's harder to crawl back up in search ranking results too, right? If you're not getting clicked and you're not getting booked and you're not getting great reviews, all those things paired is going to help you climb in search ranking. So if you're going to have to like crawl out of this big hole. So like that compound effect is going to work against you. So doing it right from the jump is going to be critical.
That's key. So you can still make money with short-term rentals, is what you're saying, Michael. Are you just saying that because you're going to sell us a course, or sell me a course, or what are you saying?
Hey, I'll tell you, I like to try and give pretty much everything out, for free. It's just some people Yeah.
There's a
Just
lot of haters
do what
out
you want
there.
with it. There's people making tons of money in short-term rentals still. It's gotten more competitive, absolutely. But there's still so much money to be made.
It's just
People will never stop traveling. They'll never stop seeking an experience. They're going to book somewhere. Might as well be your place.
I think this the way that I like to phrase that is because I get haters all the time, especially on TikTok. I don't know why TikTok's the
Yeah.
worst on haters. TikTok and YouTube Shorts, those are just brutal. But a lot of times, other than the hey, you're killing the housing market, the
Uh,
other thing I get is super saturated. It's a dying market. You're just trying to sell me your course, that kind of thing. And the way I look at it is, at the end of the day, it's like there's no easy money. It's not easy money. You got to come in, you got to compete. You can't be middle of the ground. You got to provide value. You got to be better than everybody else. The traffic drivers are there. There's like Joshua Tree, my market. There's 3 million people coming to Joshua Tree. It's a matter of are they going to stay at your place or are they going to stay at your neighbor's place? That's the competition. I rather play the game of hey, I get to capture that competition or that traffic versus being in an area where there's no traffic drivers and nobody wants to travel at all to that area, and now you're competing on convincing people to travel there. So
mm-hmm.
Nashville is a huge travel market.
Yep.
There's already bachelorette parties going there, and they will be for as long as we can think of. It's going to happen. It's going to keep happening, and
Yeah.
so just capturing that attention in
Yeah.
the travel.
All the haters are funny though.
Yeah.
What I've recognized is if you ask any one of those people like, "Hey, why don't you just share your portfolio and how your numbers are shaping up?" Like 99.9% of people on social media that are like, "Oh, it's too saturated, you're not making any money, blah blah blah." They're not in the game. They're just speculating, So you got to take this up with a grain of salt. And other people watching too, don't just read a comment and assume that someone who's not in the game is spitting out straight facts based on experience, because it's probably not the case.
Yeah, and I think I get that a lot with I don't know if you get it with your market, but the collective mindset on Facebook groups is huge, where people will say, "Wow, I heard all these negative things about people trashing places, like all these crazy stories," and it's like the one like 0.01% of guests, or
Yeah,
such
yeah,
a interesting situation where it never happens or whatever. But that negativity can pile up too. Um,
bad
yeah.
news sells. Just turn on any news channel, Fox News, CNN, doesn't matter what your flavor is. Like, bad news keeps you glued to the TV.
Sure.
Same thing with social media. Of some crazy one-off story is going to go viral. Someone destroyed my Airbnb. You're never going to have a viral guest that left it in spectacular condition and were wonderful.
There's no drama to that. I wouldn't
Yeah.
watch the Kardashians if it wasn't drama filled, right?
Right.
But cool. So let's move on to the next place. So you reach financial freedom, right? You hit the 2 to 3 units. You reach financial freedom. Granted, it was COVID. It was an awesome time. Now did you just leave your job at that point? And was it you said it was like 12 months in you left your job?
12 months in, we were, hit financial freedom, and we
Mhm.
wanted one more property for
Got it.
some extra security before we left. So got our fourth one, stood it up, and then my wife and I both quit our jobs in April of 21 and hopped in a camper van, rented our primary home out just as a long-term rental, and yeah, traveled for a year straight all over the country. It was awesome. But that was like the first true taste of freedom, like where you had true time and financial freedom. It's like it's undescribable to people who have yet to experience it. I hope everyone has the opportunity to experience that, especially at a younger age.
Yeah.
It's really incredible.
How old are you, Michael?
I'm 31.
31. Yeah, you're young. I'm 27. So, I mean, having that, I mean, I don't know if people really have that kind of freedom unless you're starting your own business. And, most people are working 9 to 5 job, day to day, and it can get exhausting. I don't know how people do it. But wow, I mean, taste of financial freedom is huge. So, great. You got the taste of the financial freedom. You were traveling, but you haven't quit your job yet, or you already quit your job at this point?
We had
You
just
did.
quit before hopping in the camper.
Okay, perfect. So you quit your job, hopped in the camper, you're traveling. Um, Now, what was the next step in scaling your portfolio? Because you've done a lot since then, of course, right? You didn't just
Yeah.
stop right there. So what happened next?
Yeah. So we ended up leveraging a few cash out refis on some properties
Mm,
that they both went up in value, and two we did rehab on. One of them was more extensive rehab, and we leveraged that money. Right, you pull out tax free and move it into a new investment. So that's what we did. We bought two more properties that were down in Florida. These ones have not performed quite as well as the others, but nonetheless still solid overall investments in terms of, we did some cost seg studies on it, so saved on taxes, principal pay down the loan, appreciation, all that. So that got us to 6, and then settled down here in South Carolina, bought a home, bought a boat, finally got to like relax from all the travel and just like kick it. And then I started all these other businesses that I didn't never had the foresight that I would be doing any of this, but it's crazy what can happen and the creativity that you might have and the willingness to start a business when you aren't stressed on money or time or how you're spending it, right? So I didn't have to work a job, but I still am hungry. I like to do stuff. So I started the coaching business. That's gone great. I love working with people, helping people achieve similar results that I have experienced. And then a couple of my students have helped me start other companies where they're the CEOs, they run the day-to-day, but I'm a large partner in the business and help scale those businesses. So one of them is Home Team Vacation Rentals. We are statistically the fastest growing PM in the country as a percentage growth the past year. Really the past year and a half went from 0 to over 300 properties. I think I told you either at the beginning of the show or before we hopped on, about 115 of those properties came through acquisition, and the rest have just been through organic growth, which is awesome. And then Summerled Designs, which is the design studio that only does short-term and vacation rental design. And last year was our first full year in business, and we designed over 150 properties for investors across the country. So we're very hyper-focused in both companies on the client and as an investor, right? So we're not trying to make your home pretty. We're not trying to, of course, we're trying to maintain your home and keep it in good shape, but we're revenue first and we're cash flow first. So I think that's why we've been able to do so well, is just we're so focused on getting clients the results that they're after. So yeah, having that time has been awesome. And yeah, it's just been a wild ride, man.
That's awesome. And I think those two businesses are interesting. So so you the management company, right? You had a student. What was that conversation like? The student came up to you and said, "Hey, I want to build this co-hosting business or management company. Do you want to join with me?" Or did they find a management company and they bought it with you, and then that kind of spiraled?
Yeah, so they had about, I want to say 6 or so properties of their own. And what happened is they started networking with owners of other properties near them where their properties were. And these people were in disbelief for calling them liars that they were, Elliot was getting the rents he was getting. And he said, "Well, who's managing your property?" And they said, "Oh, well, this company or this company." And they're like, "There's no way." And he's like, "Well, how about I manage it? I'll do it at the same rate or cheaper even. And, let's just see where it goes." And so they came over, made a few changes, added the software tools that are necessary to compete, and immediately increased their revenue by 20 to 50%, literally overnight. And these guys were in disbelief. So that networking effect, as you're well aware, is very powerful. They have other properties and other friends, family, investors that also own properties. So word of mouth started to trickle in properties. And then I think he had about 20 properties under management, co-hosting, and started to talk about, hey, how do we turn this into a professional property management company? So he approached me, seeing if I wanted to work with him on some initiatives there. And I said, "Why don't we just partner on it together?" And so that's how that relationship kicked off back in the latter half of 22.
Cool. And you guys have acquired a company since then?
Yeah, we acquired one down in Port Aransas, Texas, Port A, so coastal town. And we closed on that deal in June of last year. Great company, great staff. I think one advantage, and you can attest to this acquiring companies, Patryk, but a lot of the older PMs that have been in the game for, pre-Airbnb is there's a great opportunity to make a few changes, add all the software tools that can enable a smoother operation, and more profitability across the board, and compete better. And so that's what we were able to do with them without changing a ton. They weren't using dynamic pricing.
Wow.
They had a booking engine they were running on a hard drive. They weren't using a cloud-based Guesty or similar solution. So just a couple key changes was, we're able to really increase EBITDA overnight, with a solid portfolio that this family has built. So it's been pretty awesome. I'm not sure what have you focused on in your acquisitions? Are you looking for, something similar where there's like a quick value add that you can tweak and add some efficiencies?
Yeah, I'm pretty similar, Michael. Like we go in and we see somebody, except our market is a little bit more competitive, so everyone's using dynamic pricing. But
Hmm.
even then, we went in and we just implemented our pricing strategy versus their pricing strategy, and we already saw a 30% increase top line revenue. And that's just they were doing everything right. They had all the right systems, all the right tech, all the tools, but just the better pricing strategy is all it took to
Yeah.
add that kind of top line revenue. And so there's there's a lot of that, right? And so a lot of value you can create in a PM company as well. I can go deep into that, but all in all, like yeah, value add is huge, and
Yeah.
definitely look for that when we acquire. Yeah. But cool. So with that, that's really interesting that you guys did that. 300, congratulations. That's really quick. That's pretty dang fast. And the other side of things, so really, you're doing all these different businesses. Which one do you find the most enjoyment, the most fulfillment?
Probably the coaching business, because that's where I spend most of my time is with students, and I also, have the ability to employ people, which is great. A lot of them are actually former students that had such a positive experience, which is just reassuring that what we're doing is impacting lives, in the right way. That they had such a positive experience that they said, "Hey, I just want to come work with you guys in some capacity," right? So whether that's on the fulfillment side, on the coaching side, on the sales front, operations. But that's where most of my time is spent, and most fulfilling, honestly, is just helping people do what I got so much, like my wife and I got so much out of for our own lives, and helping them replicate and kind of problem solve and figure out where to invest, how to invest, and be strategic about it.
Yeah.
And also get started really on any budget. There's lots of different ways to start with short-term rentals, which is awesome. So that's where I spend most of it.
Cool. And you are at 8 properties. Are you happy with that? Are you looking to scale that at all? Or is that just
Yeah,
your
yeah,
stationary?
definitely scaling. Yeah, definitely scaling. We have 7 live. The 8th, we're doing a bigger rehab on. We're doing a pseudo burr model. Partner with somebody, took down this property all cash, dumping a bunch of. It'll be a higher end property, like 6 bedrooms, 6,000 plus square feet, kind of like the last one that we did. That has been extremely fruitful, cash flow heavy. Like there's opportunity, guys. That even if you're just starting, once you get into some of these bigger properties, the reason I like bigger properties is one, I'd rather manage one property that cash flows me 10 grand than 4 similar ones that maybe, are less appealing, less cash flow, diminishing returns. It's easier to eliminate competition from an investor standpoint, from at least for retail investors. If you're going in and buying, a 900K property, 1.2 million somewhere in there, and then dumping a ton of money to create a property that you bought for around $1 million that competes with a $4 million Lux property.
Yeah.
So that's been our strategy. So it's been quality over quantity, and so we're scaling thoughtfully. Um, so yeah, this 8th one should go live, and then we're hoping to acquire one to two big ones a year going forward.
I like that. And I think you have your strategy is very similar to Bill Faith as well. I know he doesn't like to take anything on. You know Bill, right? I'm assuming.
Yeah, yeah, I'm familiar. I haven't spoken with him personally, but I know who he is.
Yeah, yeah. So similar strategy where you rather have less is more kind of thing, where you don't need to have 5 different short-term rentals that make the same amount as one. And I feel like there's a lot of flexing, and I'm sure people are like, "Oh, you only got 8? Like, why are you coaching? Like, I got
Yeah. I
20 or
always ask
30."
people, yeah, it always cracks me up. The
Yeah.
one thing that I always scratch my head at in the real estate industry is all these videos, people, how many units you have, or
Mm-hmm.
doors.
Yep.
I got 1,000 doors. I got 5,000
Mm-hmm.
doors. I care about what's your cash flow and what's your net worth, because those are the two driving forces in real estate that, are most critical. And what's your ROI?
Yeah.
What's your cash return? Like, how is that performing? Because you could have 1,000 doors and be underwater and be
Mm-hmm.
terrible. Like your portfolio could be performing awfully. So the 7 we had, last year did over $1 million in revenue. This year with the 8, we should surpass 1.5 mil.
Nice. Is that top line or is
Which
that net?
that's top line.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Got it.
yeah,
Yeah, it's cool, man. And I know yeah, like that's really nice. That's a lot of cash flow. That's off of 8 properties, right? I mean, we're managing 40, and we're probably gonna hit around 3-4 mil top line, but we only take a percentage of that too. And there's a lot of expenses that are involved, and I'm sure you know that too. So at the end of the day, it's not that crazy of an amount. It's not like you're making 1 million net every month or anything like that. But do you have goals like that, or are you just very comfortable and you're very happy with where you are right now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm comfortable. All the other businesses have grown beyond my expectations. So I've become more focused on, early on, I guess I'll just phrase it like this. Early on, it was how do I become financially free as fast as possible? So my only focus was creating cash flow through the investments. What's beautiful about business and being an entrepreneur is that you can scale your net worth and your income far greater than you can by solely just investing in real estate and reinvesting profits. Now, of course, once you get to a certain level, if you have tens of millions of dollars under your belt and reinvesting profits, every year from real estate, yes. But the business is basically what you do is make a ton of money through business and then invest everything else into real estate from those businesses. And that's what I have found a lot of really, high income people, really wealthy people do. They take all their money, invest in real estate, reduce their tax burden, create additional income stream, and then grow business and then repeat. So
I like the business side. I don't know how much enjoyment you've gotten out of the management company and the design company, but
I love it.
I mean, it's one thing to have Here's the thing about coaching that I've noticed. I coach too. Coaching, the moment that we step out of coaching, it's dead. Like you are the business. And so these other concrete businesses are actually really nice because they can transcend time, and they actually have like value to attach to them as well. And obviously real estate is the best of the best, owning real estate. And I tell this to people that I teach, even co-host or, arbitrage, hey, owning assets are going to be the ultimate goal because that's what's going to offset your tax burden. That's what's going to do the cost sag, which 100% cost sag might be coming back. As of now, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see if they finish it.
Yeah, but that kind of stuff is really beneficial. I'm curious, like what you've seen, like how real estate has benefited you beyond just even cash flow.
Yeah, I mean, it's given me, cash flow is number one. It's the freedom that comes with, if you can no longer rely on a single source of income that is tied to your time.
Right.
Once you get beyond that, your whole world just opens up to possibility. But the problem a lot of people see is they hear these podcasts, they watch people on social media, and that must be nice. It can never be me, because you can't think past what you're doing this week, right? Because all you can think about is what I have to do at work tomorrow, and then the next day, and the next day, and then, oh gosh, when is it the weekend? And then I'm just gonna go drown my sorrows away on the weekend because it's just like I only have 2 days to like really live it up, and then I go back Monday and you have like post-weekend depression. It's like that's a cycle that sucks. I've been there. But once you don't have to do that and you can actually like breathe and you still have the income coming in, your mind just opens up to possibilities. And you're a young dude. You're already buying management companies. You're doing well in business and real estate. Once you hit like a certain level that you never thought you could hit, you look back and you're like, oh man, and then you think, oh, I could never get to this level, and then a couple years go by and you're surpassed that too. It's like the people who are delusional are makes the best entrepreneurs, like that think the impossible, and everyone else is like, nah, you'll never do that, you're a knucklehead, and then you go do it, and then everyone else is like, oh, it must be nice, overnight success, like not gonna happen for me. It's like, well, it could. You just have to take a shot. But the point I'm getting at is like, one, the financial freedom is first, cash flow is first. And once you have that freedom of time and creativity, you can go start whatever you want.
Have you noticed, Michael, when you go on vacation, you have some of the best ideas? Have you ever realized that, or is that just a me thing?
Maybe so. I've heard a lot of people almost think of it like a sabbatical, or they're like Bill Gates, some other people, like big business folks. Some of their who's the CEO of Salesforce, the guy who founded that. Apparently, he started Salesforce. He was like a secluded vacation by himself without tech, and he came up with this idea for Salesforce. It's like, so it's funny you say that. I heard like some really big stories of that happening. And even like Brandon Turner's of the world, big into real estate, he gets a hour massage every week, and he says it's not so much for the massage, although that's nice. He said that's his 1 hour a week where his phone isn't pinging and it's off, and his mind is just spinning in like creative thought. And so a lot of his business ideas came from getting a massage, which is kind of hilarious,
That's pretty funny. I don't know, because it just reminded me when you said that the moment you don't have to think about the stress of life, like the stress of the work, of the job, or anything like that, that's the moment that you can start being a little more secure and like understand like, hey, I have some leeway to make risks, but also gives you some time to think. Because when you're in the flow of things and you're just doing your W-2, 9 to 5, I don't think you really have much time to think.
Yeah. Well, you have so many distractions, right? It's, you know, as a business owner too, you can get caught up in working in the business, not on the business. And it's really hard to make that transition. Like I still struggle with it a lot. You know, I could tackle these 20 things I know have to get done, but none of these 20 things, they're critical to like the business operation, but none of them are moving the needle to 10x the business. But there's probably one thing that if I focus on and tackle each day, that's the most mission critical. And I either pawn those tasks off or do those after tackling the one big thing, that's where the business is going to start to experience crazy growth. But a lot of people, it's really hard to go from solopreneur, like W-2 to solopreneur to entrepreneur. I say solopreneur, it's like when you first start a business, like you're more than likely going to be the CEO, the COO, CFO, and the employee, the salesperson, the marketing person, you know, you're everything, and it's hard. So once you start to build a team of great people, that's when things can really just compound and grow exponentially.
Yeah, that's huge. And I can understand that, and that's something I feel right now. So I'm curious, Michael, let's just kind of dive into the last 3 questions. And one of the 3 questions is going to be one that I just personally think of on the spot, specifically for you. And the other 2 are just I ask everybody. But the first one I'm going to have to ask, what book would you recommend to people? And it doesn't have to be real estate related.
I get asked this all the time on podcasts. Usually my canned answer is one that just personally was kind of a light bulb moment for me. Okay. And a lot of people are familiar with Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but not a lot of people are familiar with what I would call a sequel to it, which is Cash Flow Quadrant.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very repetitive, like a lot of these kind of self-help books are. But for me, the light bulb moment was understanding what is truly risky in life. A lot of people are so scared. They have a nice, safe, secure job. It's risky to invest. It's risky to start a business. But once you start thinking about the risk of not doing it, and ultimately, if I'm 80 or 90 years old or 100 years old on my deathbed, it's like, would I regret not taking that risk early on or perceived risk? So the light bulb moment for me was, it's way riskier for me to not give it a shot and risk losing some money or some time to create a business, get into real estate, because I'm risking working the next 40 to 45 years for a job that makes me miserable every day. And I'm not saying everybody's miserable working their job, but would they rather be doing other things? Probably. You know, so you kind of have to really think holistically over the course of the next, 60 years of your life. Is this decision, it's important. You need to figure out what's truly risky in your mind. And the quadrant goes into all these different things of like trading time for money versus having money or people working hard for you, leverage, right? All those other things are important. But that was like the one key takeaway from that book that really resonated with me.
That's huge. And I think other people will appreciate you making that recommendation, considering half the recommendations are Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So,
yeah.
Cool. So the sequel. Awesome. And then second thing is, Michael, what, if you could go back and you didn't have to do you're not doing short-term rentals anymore, you're financially free. You can do whatever you want. You can invest in anything you want. You don't have to be a short-term rental guy anymore. You don't have to be anything. What would you, and then there's money in it, and it allows you to do it. What would you focus on, I guess, coaching, but also doing and living every day?
Honestly, I would try it if I had the capability. I don't think I do, but maybe. I would try and like compete in golf, if I had already had the money and it was just like a hobby that I could maybe try and get like to the PGA Tour, live, whatever, then that'd be pretty cool.
That's a fun fact. I didn't know you were into golf.
Yeah, or like I grew up bass fishing a lot, so like
nice.
Bass fishing guide. I'll be out on the water in the sun every day, like doing something I love and seeing enjoyment in other people's eyes, like catching fish, like pretty laid back without the stress of earning money, earning a commission from the boat ride. But regardless what I do, Patrick, I will tell you this is I would establish a personal brand, because the amount of doors that have opened up in my life and every single other person's life, I think can attest to this by creating content and just putting out value for people. It doesn't have to be a coaching program. It doesn't have to be a property management company. Something is going to come from it. And it is the most valuable and intangible thing that you can ever do for yourself, is have a personal brand. It's going to build you connections that you never thought were possible. You're going to meet amazing people. New business ideas are going to come to fruition. You can partner with people on things. Like, there's so much that can come from it. And no one can ever really take that from you, of course, unless you do something that Facebook or TikTok doesn't like and they ban you for life. But
I was actually thinking that.
Yeah. But, it's invaluable to do that. And it's only going to elevate everything else that you're doing. It's not for everybody, though. It's like, I don't really like creating content, to be honest, but
Michael, you're on this podcast right now. You're sharing your story. You're sharing your secrets. You're giving back. And I think, at first, this could just yield you nothing. But that giving back to people, good karma, it's going to come back to you in some way, shape, or form. That's what personal brand is. And so that's why I appreciate you being on here. But before we close it off, the last question, what's next for Michael, other than bass fishing or golf hobbies that you're pursuing into professional field?
Yeah, my wife and I love to travel, so we try and go abroad somewhere, a new country each year, in addition to the other travels that we have. Aside from that, we just started the process of the architectural plans, like very, very rough, building our dream house. We just bought 50 acres.
Cool.
So as we have one daughter and plan to grow our family. So we're super stoked about kind of building our little family homestead of our dreams. So we're super amped about that.
That's awesome, man. And do you travel with the daughter?
Yeah. It's
How old is she?
She's almost 16 months. So
Wow.
approaching a year and a half.
Wow.
Yeah, but last year we went to Switzerland and a couple other countries over there, and she was, not quite a year. And it's definitely a challenge traveling with the young one. I'm sure it'll be even harder with multiple. I'm sure people that are listening to this that have multiple kids will be like, yeah, he doesn't even know yet. But, do you have kids?
No, I do not. I'm not even married, so I have
Yeah.
a girlfriend, a long-term girlfriend.
That's a start.
So that's a start.
That's a good start.
Just not thinking about it right now. She's 23. I'm 27. So
Yeah. Well, you got plenty of time.
Yeah.
But when the time comes, your life definitely changes immediately when that kid comes into the world. But it is like nothing else when your kid starts to interact and smile back at you and say
man.
dad. It's just
I can't imagine.
it's undescribable, So that is
Everyone tells me
life changing. I hope everybody has the opportunity to have children that wants to, because it's like the best thing ever.
Everyone tells me that. It's like the most common thing I hear. So that's awesome, man. Well, I wish you the best of luck with everything, man. You keep killing it. Keep giving back. For the people that really wanted to dive deeper and ask you questions or follow you, how can they get in contact with you?
Any social media, but Instagram's the best place. I respond to all DMs there. It's just at @melefante6. Make sure it's the little blue check that I pay for Meta to verify that it's me, because there's a lot of people that if I message you on Telegram, it's probably not me.
There's no Bitcoin. You're not doing anything Bitcoin related in the next 12 months, are you?
No, not yet. And if I was, I still would not be messaging you on Telegram. Now, if that changes, that'll bite me in the ass, right?
Why don't you be on Telegram next 5 years? All right, well, cool, man. Thank you so much for coming on, and take it easy, man.
And that's a wrap. Thank you for listening to the Patryk Real Estate Show. If you found this episode helpful, please give us a follow and leave us a 5-star review. Your support truly means a lot. And connect with Patryk in the show notes below. Until next time.